Hi, everyone. Harry here with additional annals of the gang that couldn't shoot straight. That is the whole immigration authorities and what they're doing to try to deport people. And here they have, deported an American citizen. That citizen, moreover, is 2 years old. And a Trump judge, Terry Doughty in Louisiana, is saying this doesn't look very good and has called for a hearing on May 16th. Okay, here's what seems to have happened. The mother of this 2-year-old, who the 2-year-old is a citizen and belongs here and has every right to be here, was being deported. And ICE is now saying, has said to Judge Doughty, after somebody came in and filed a habeas corpus on behalf of this 2-year-old citizen. Well, we understood, they said, that the mother wanted the 2-year-old to go with her. Now, this is disputed by the father, who's now been separated by his family. And they bring this up to Doughty, who says, of course, it's illegal and unconstitutional, and of course it is, to deport a U.S. Citizen. ICE comes in and says, well, we think the mother wanted, that was her wish. Now, it's a little tricky. That wouldn't necessarily be definitive in any event. But the flaw here is the same flaw as in other cases like the Abrego Garcia case. They did no due process. They didn't bring to a court at all. So Doughty, again, the Trump appointee in Louisiana, says, I hear you, but I don't know that. We need this hearing May 16th. You say the mother, and of course they did the same little trick as with Abrego Garcia. The lawyers for the 2-year-old petitioned in time to stop them. And called, not knowing what the story was. The judge calls it around midnight to the department. What the hell's the story here? Does the mother want her, and whatever other evidence he needs to gather? They wait for an hour before calling back, at which point they say, oh, she's in Honduras, too late, we can't reach her. So that's a sort of version of the same trick as with El Salvador and CCOT, although important difference is there's no allegation that the mother is incarcerated, much less in some kind of hellhole. Till all we can tell, she and her daughter are now just back in Honduras, but separated from the father, who is pressing her claims to be a U.S. Citizen and stay here. And they just did it, boom, with no notice, no due process. And as they did with Abrego Garcia, when there was a call and it was in time to get the information before spiriting both the mother and daughter away, somehow, an hour went by and then, sorry, it's too late. So the judge isn't too thrilled with this. This is we'll see if the U.S. will say something like come May 16th, as they're doing with the deportees who've been transferred to the CCOT prison in El Salvador. Oops, sorry, nothing we can do. Got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, etc. Now, worst case scenario is better than Abrego Garcia. If she's a citizen, she can present herself at some point to come back. But that's no real excuse for not having engaged in a due process review in the first place, much less for having done this gambit, it seems, similar to what they did with Boasberg, of just, redoubling and speeding up the efforts to deport and then saying an hour later, oh, I'm sorry, we just can't do anything about it, Judge Doughty. So Judge Doughty's not thrilled. He's ordered a hearing for May 16th, and we'll see how that all plays out. But the bottom line, U.S. citizen who has a right not to be deported is just gone, and without the kind of determination that a judge, not the department, a judge needs to make in order for that to happen. So as with Abrego Garcia and all the people down there, it'll be quite a challenge. to unscramble the eggs in the event that the judge determines that, mistakes were made and they were too quick to presume that this is what the mother wanted, and moreover, that there were no other legal impediments to the deportation, not just of the mom, but the 2-year-old with her. We'll see how that goes come May 16th, but it's just another chapter in the annals of what the government seems to be doing, unchastened by the Boasberg case and the prospect of contempt. They're just, if they seem to have any kind of possibility to zoom ahead, ignore a judge, and make it a fait accompli, that's what they're doing, at least here. And there are a couple other cases where the same accusation has been leveled with as to 4 different, rough customers who seem to have big criminal records, but that's not an excuse for not having gotten the initial due process review that the Supreme Court says is required. The argument that the U.S. has made there is, oh, well, you told the Department of Homeland Security not to do this. This was the Department of Defense plane. But if those Department of Defense people in any way knew about it, worked with DHS, you can't play it cutesy like that with a federal judge. So that could turn out to be a problem. So we may have a series of problems with the departments trying to run ahead before judicial orders can, well, at least they have some deniability about them. We will see. The big event on all this stuff is going to come Wednesday when the Abrego Garcia case itself, it was really hurtling toward a contempt finding by Judge Zinnes. And then all of a sudden, both parties agreed to a 1-week pause, presumably on the representation of the United States, that they were going to work it out in some way. Either way, but certainly if they don't, and it turns out to have been, sorry about that, then these other cases are going to come to the fore even more strongly. If they do work it out, then the other cases will still be, hey, you did it in Abrego Garcia. You need to unscramble the eggs here as well. So 2-year-old citizen deported and without any due process, very possibly a problem, and a Trump-appointed judge calling for a hearing on May 16th. Stay tuned. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.